repo.
All right, there we go. Yeah, so we have an experiment coming up where we would like to put some CTAs. So like start a trial would be a fairly easy one. Upgrade your account would be a more complicated one, but we'd like to put those CTAs into the docs pages. So we had some questions about the possibility of that. Again, starting a trial would probably be fairly easy unless we wanted to detect if they already had a trial going or already had a paid account. And upgrading your paid account, like from one tier to another, might be more complicated. We'd have to actually know who you were to send you to the right billing page. So yeah, so that's just some questions around how can we share that information, if that's possible at all, if that's something that's changing soon with like maybe the change in our cookie handling system, or I don't know, some way that we can say like, this is the group you were last looking at. So if you hit upgrade, that's the group we assume we want to upgrade, those kinds of things.
Yeah, for anything we can infer while on the sites, the doc site is a standalone, statically generated site that doesn't, it's not integrated in any real way with the .com project. So adding the CTAs for, you know, talk to sales or changing the URL of the CTA based on what page you're inside the doc site, that would all be fairly straightforward. You know, that wouldn't be anything too complicated, I can't imagine. Being able to offer the user the ability to upgrade a plan, like you said, anything where we need to know a bit of knowledge about who you are on GitLab.com, that might get trickier. I'm sure there's ways we can look at doing it. We can bring across the information depending on how they navigate into the doc site. I mean, if they were to navigate straight in from GitLab.com, we might be able to share that information. But at the moment, we don't really have any concept of tracking who you are on docs.gitlab.com.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you think with like the new cookie, I'm trying to remember what we're changing to for that, but there's like a new system that we're changing to manage cookies, which made it sound like it would be easier to share cookies on different subdomains of GitLab.
Let's see here. Yeah, we're doing the OneTrust implementation.
OneTrust, that's right. Yeah.
So based on it, so let me have a look here. So based on OneTrust, oh, well, based on this comment here from Laura Duggan, it looks like it would be possible because they're attempting the same thing with about GitLab.com. So a script can be applied to the root level GitLab.com and then filter to all subdomains. That could be the answer to our problem. Yeah.
Okay. Did you paste that comment in?
Yeah, let me actually just copy and paste the issue. So I think what might be kind of cool is I think maybe we might want to talk to Laura. She looks like the person who's firing ahead to do the first one, or it looks like she's actually done it. Okay, here we go. Tyler Williams has a merge up that went in last week. Ooh, that was a big merge.
Don't you love those?
50 file changes on www.gitlab.com.
That's a lot.
It is a lot, but what I'm curious to see is I just want to see how she set up that. Is it just a standalone library she bundles from the package.json, or here we go. Okay, so in this merge here, set up by Laura, it looks like we have a file now included, which is handling most of the heavy lifting, the CB extras.js file.
CB extras.js. Not seeing that one.
Inside JavaScript, just under blog home.js, there's also CB extras. So if you look at that one, that's where the majority of these changes took place to implement this. So essentially, it's just the raw file itself. And they're specifically targeting on the www site. They're specifically targeting mostly videos or anything VMO forms or Marketo forms that you might need cookies to browse and view.
There it is.
What I really want to see is, can we so I think then a good question would be, is this something that is OneTrust something that we're implementing on GitLab.com at the moment? Does this create a cookie for a logged in user? If it does, then it should be fairly straightforward to access that cookie on docs.gitlab.com.
Okay.
We should be able then to go, all the way. We can very simply just create a standalone JS file for handling the navigation and parsing of that, depending on what page you're on. So the site is statically generated, starting with, an action talk to sales, straightforward, and we can kind of work backwards from if we can bring information across. Because if I look at my browser, what do we currently store as a logged in user, out of curiosity? What do we currently have? Quite an interesting problem, I must say. Where did the experiment for this, where is this coming from? Who's driving this effort?
I think this is from Conversion, the team that I work on, from Sam Awazek. And the idea is, I think that lots of people go to our docs pages, whether they're free users, new users, paid users, trial users, whatever. There's lots of people that go there. So it seems like a really prime place, particularly when you're looking at the docs for a feature that is like a premium level or ultimate level feature. We want to kind of highlight that, as well as, suggest to you, hey, start a trial and you can play with this feature right now, kind of a thing. Or if you're in a trial, we can say, hey, you like this feature? Like, upgrade. Like, you've been using this feature. Why not upgrade and have it full time?
Yeah. So it looks to me, so just on my current instance of GitLab.com, I have two things that come up as quite interesting. So the first one, three things. So I have a visitor ID cookie, I have a session ID cookie, and I also have a GitLab Canary enabled cookie for viewing the next version.
Okay.
So I think what would be good to check is, is the session cookie representative of a logged in user? What is the visitor ID cookie referencing? Is that just literally tracking me as a visitor if I was logged in or not logged in? And then how do we set up our GitLab Canary cookie in case we have to set up a custom one?
Gotcha.
But here's a question. Let me log out and find out. So let's navigate to GitLab.com and see, have I got any of these? Maybe this is something we can just take with us. Okay, so it does look to be that the session cookie might actually be set already. So that is something we might have. Docs.gitlab. Now the question is, how much information so that would let us know, by the looks of it at the moment, whether or not we're a logged in GitLab user, but whether or not cookie consent. So I still have the GitLab Canary cookie, but I don't keep the session cookie or the visitor cookie. Okay, so I think what we might want to do is, in the same way we have set up the GitLab Canary cookie, we might want to look at, if a user logs in, we might want to establish a cookie for them with just the information we might want to know about whether or not, what plan they're on. And then we could tailor the call to actions if they visit docs.gitlab.com after they've been logged in.
Right.
on GitLab.com. But what would probably make sense would be to do this in an iterative fashion. So probably start with the talk to sales CTA and then build up from there.
Right. That makes sense. What about the start a trial? Would you recommend that one as well?
Yeah, I think start a trial and talk to sales are very straightforward because you don't need to know anything about the user ahead of time to do that.
Right. Okay.
That's relatively straightforward.
Yeah.
And start a trial is even, start a trial. We already know ahead of time when we're building the static site, whether or not you're a self-hosted or this is docs.gitlab.com. So we can always strip that out of the self-hosted versions.
Gotcha. Does that include like if you get to the docs from like your GitLab instance /help?
That is a great question. Let's find out. Let's find out. Yeah, from visiting it from help just takes you to the, it looks like it just takes you to the .com version, but also if this is built, does it build for the, so when I look at this on .com, it's taking me to the .com, but I just want to check if /help takes you to, my guess is that /help, if it's on a self-hosted, these URLs are probably, they become relative, I guess, and they take you to the self-hosted version of docs.
That would make sense.
If they don't, if they just take you to the single source of truth, the docs.gitlab.com, that's fine. That makes our life even easier.
Right.
Let me have a look at just the code for that file very, very quickly. Because it's not a page I'm super familiar with, I'll be honest. Help / I guess it's show. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so no, they just rendered the markdown from the help controller. Good stuff. Okay. Prefix markdown links would help. Okay, cool. Yeah, they even have a method for it here. Redirect to documentation URL. So it looks like def documentation URL. Yeah, so if the user has configured a documentation URL inside their database in a self-hosted version, it'll take them to that. If they don't, it'll take them to the .com version. So most users probably end up with the .com version.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I'd say maybe do it in 2 tiers. We could probably start with one merge that could add the CTA for talk to sales or start a trial. And then the second merge the second merge will essentially be 2 merges. It'll be a merge first to gitlab.com to create a cookie that will store the right information, which I'm assuming is you're going to need to know your tier and you're going to need to know, well, I guess just the tier, isn't it?
I think it's just, it still kind of depends on, I guess, what group you're looking at, because you might be in multiple groups and one might be on a trial, one might be paid, and one might be free. So that kind of complicates it to me. I don't know if we just want to take the latest group you looked at as the one that we have the CTA for.
Yeah, that's probably what I would do to begin with to keep it simplified. I take
Yeah.
the latest and then I take the tier.
Yeah.
And so then based off that, then you navigate to docs.gitlab.com and we can just have a JS file to check if that information is available to you. And if that information is, we can render the button. If not, we don't have to render anything.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that wouldn't be too bad. That wouldn't be too bad at all. So essentially end to end to begin with the most simple implementation. You're talking 3 merges, I guess, 2 for GitLab or docs.gitlab.com and 1 for gitlab.com.
What's the one for GitLab.com is to put stuff into the cookie.
Yeah, that's it. So in the same way we have the GitLab canary cookie. That's the way I would do it. It would avoid us having to add anything to docs.gitlab.com to try and get the user to verify who they are.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, no, I don't think that makes any sense as a long-term goal. I don't know of any other docs site that asks you to log in as a user.
Yeah, no. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been to those and I hate them with a passion. Especially if you're like researching a product. You're like, I don't want to create an account to research if I want this product.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're going to be taking any super sensitive information. I mean, it's essentially a string. I can't see any large security issues with that because, I mean, even if somebody looked at it, what are they going to be able to tell that you're on a tier and you looked at a group? Is that,
do we need the group ID? Because we have to send them, I think for the upgrade button, we'd want to send them to the group's billing page for that group.
Yeah, let me have a look.
The namespace ID.
Let me have a look at how we, I'm pretty sure it is the ID we do the. Well, the way we might be okay with just the name of the group because we can just construct the URL based on the name of the group. And then if it's a subgroup, we'll just take the name of the parent groups as well. Because we can just
by name, you mean like the slug, the actual URL portion?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. So like /gitlab-org/ incubation-engineering as an example.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, we may not need the ID.
Yeah, I don't know which one of those is more. I think we actually have an MR in motion now to actually pseudo-anonymize URLs when they're in, what are they in? Logs or something? I don't remember. Or no, it's when we send them in events to Sisense. So the idea being that we take the name out and replace it with like group : the ID. And I think the reason is that the ID is technically less sensitive information because the name might actually tell you who that group is, whereas the ID doesn't tell you that. So we might want the ID, but that means, I don't know how we'd route to that then from the docs, right? I guess we could have an endpoint on .com that just like takes the ID and like changes it and reroutes to non-ID version.
Yeah, we could fetch. I mean, we could essentially just hit the API and just fetch the group details based on the ID.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We could run that by, see if the slug is okay, or if the ID is important, and we can iterate some more on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a bad idea. We can iterate over it during the review process and see,
Okay, that makes sense. So we need some way to navigate to that specific group. We want to know what their current plan tier is, so we know what kind of button to show them. Or if they're on a trial, that should also come through on that. That's good. And then If we don't know any of that information, we just won't render an upgrade button at all. We can still render talk to sales and start a trial. And the start a trial one can get smarter once we know this other information too. Because if they're already in a trial or already in a paid account, we don't need to show that button either. If we don't know who you are, we're just going to assume you can start a trial. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a great way to go about it, or at least to get started on it.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. That's great.
Nice. No, I'm glad. That was good. That's it. I mean, it's a great addition to the project, and I think it would be super useful.
Yeah. It's really good for us, I think, in terms of just running experiments to see what helps people convert. So it may get yanked out and we may decide it's not actually helpful at all, but it's worth running the experiment.
You give it a shot and see.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome stuff. Well, look, Dallas, thank you so much for your time and everything. And if you need anything going forward on it, if you need any like pointers about which files to look at or any like spinning up merges or anything, just, hit me on the issue and we'll go from there.
Sounds great. Thanks, David.
Awesome. Talk soon.
Appreciate your time. Have a great day.
Bye.